This mech is as effective as it is unimpressive. I mean, it doesn't have jump jets, it doesn't have ECM, it doesn't have AMS or mask or a large engine. It doesn't do anything particularly exciting, but it's just super solid, and I really do like playing this mech. You know, sometimes when I just feel like, just doing well, like if I've just had a lot of matches where I get stomped, this is kind of one of my go-to mechs where I want to do well. And it has just a pair of very solid weapon systems. You have 3 large lasers on the left torso and an MRM-30 in the right torso. And between the two, you've always got, pretty decent punch. The mech has some really good quirks for energy weapons. So the large lasers have a very quick rate of fire, and that does actually mean that the mech has some heat troubles, especially with my setup. You might find something that runs cooler, but I do probably use a cool shot on this mech more often than even a laser boat like my Hellbringer, just because the Hellbringer is set up with more heat sinks, so more heat dissipation. It just handles being a laser boat better than this does. But when you do start to overheat like that, you can just kind of rely on the MRM-30s for a while until you get back to a more comfortable heat level. If I'm not mistaken, there's going to be a time or two in this match where I'll actually have to do that. For right now, the team is still kind of strung out and sort of gathering together. Because of this particular map, people sort of always want to just poke across the gulf at each other and not really move in. But thankfully, at some point, the team does get together and actually push across, so we have a nice fight.
Target spotted.
I'll get splashed a bit on the way, but it's not too bad. And this mech has a 295 rated engine, so that means that it doesn't move all that fast, but it's still pretty good. It's a 65-ton mech, so it doesn't need a gigantic engine to get a good or to get a good speed. Still, it does make me wish I had access to the Clan XL engines so that this thing could mount more double heat sinks.
New target acquired. New target acquired.
Target spotted.
Ice Ferret, if you can pull back to Delta 3,
New
I'll help you.
target acquired.
So for the most part, I'm just kind of, well, I was going to say following the Warhammer into battle, but I'm just sort of pressing forward. Because again, this mech does so well most of the time that I just don't worry too much about the enemy. I just sort of keep charging.
Target spotted.
This mech is a little bit counterintuitive for me because I'm used to having to protect my right torso more so than my left. Because the NASCAR meta means that you typically get hit more on the right side than the left. And, oh, by the way, flamers on a hunchback, that is the first time I have ever seen that. So I was all kinds of confused when I saw that. I was like, is that really coming from the hunchback? But anyway, again, because of the sort of NASCAR meta, I tend to, take more damage on the right side, so I usually have to protect that side more. But personally, I value the 3 large lasers over the single MRM-30, so I have to really try to remind myself to protect that left side. I mean, if I have to choose to lose one side or the other, I'm going to choose to lose the right side in this case. Also, another first, I don't think I've seen LRMs on a Vapor Eagle before. And I have to apologize for the frame rate. I don't know if that was
Acquire. Base.
just something that happened because of the game, or if that's because of the trouble that I was having with my CPU at the time. I don't know.
Target spotted.
So there, the extra range on the large lasers was coming in handy. Because, you know, I could have just mediums instead. They're a much more efficient weapon for the tonnage. But I just really like the range on the large lasers. You know, that 500 meters syncs up really well with the MRM's range as well, also being about 500 meters.
Enemy base is being captured.
That's better. Go ahead.
Sorry guys, I have to have a call.
Cap the base.
So again, since I only have sort of mediocre speed, I mean, I'm not even running much faster than that assault mech is. I don't really know why I decided to go across the map and chase that mech, but I guess it was just because it was a target I could see, and I didn't know where the other two were.
Target acquired.
Target spotted.
Enemy base is being captured.
But I mean, it's also a much, much heavier target, and I didn't know what shape it was in. So I could have very easily lost this fight, but thankfully I had a decent amount of supporting fire from my team.
Enemy base is being captured. Override. Level critical.
And it helps that this guy somehow overheated. I guess he wasn't managing his heat after he lost his side torso.
The Warhammer just got captured.
Enemy base is being
I
captured.
just put a UAV, there is
careful.
nobody there.
But one thing you'll notice here, again, I mentioned I have to remind myself to take damage more on the right side intentionally with this mech. And I've actually done that, you know. I mean, the damage is somewhat evenly distributed. Even my left side is, you know, red, so it's about to be stripped of armor as well.
I put artillery next to him.
Target
Where
acquired.
he is.
Spotted.
And they've got the last guy. I'm moving way too slow to actually get over there, but I'm still going to try, just for the heck of it. Again, I wish this mech had something to help distinguish it, but even without any extra features, I mean, it's just a very, very solid setup. So the score pops up, and you'll see I did great on damage. I mean, you know, it wasn't spectacular, but again, neither is the mech. It's just a very solid number. Normally, I think I get about more like about 600. So it's, you know, this was better than normal for this mech. But it's just a great setup. So if you ever just need something really solid to fall back on, I can recommend this mech.